back. All 17 have stayed loyal for 17 years. It's our 17th anniversary today.
It's not even 17 months yet. Like it's.
I don't need to make sense, Jennifer. You take away that logic. That math has to add up in this universe. But no, thank you all for coming. We've got a great panel today. We intend on discussing the ins and outs of our industry from like the contractor perspective and then the employment perspective. All of us here have experience, and I'll have everybody introduce themselves in a second. We have experience, I believe, in both. I think all of us at some point, for the most part, either have been both, had both at our companies, this or that. And so I think what a lot of our industry is going through, not just with B-Man, but with like rec, music, I don't think like the pack and the respites are the same, but nonetheless, we're going through it. So we're going to talk about it today. If we could start with Franny, introduce ourselves, and then Angela, and then Jennifer, and then we'll get going.
I'm Franny Miller. I own a company, I own Life Choice. We are residential primarily, but we do also do behavioral, and our employees are all W-2 employees at this point in time.
Perfect.
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Angela, you're up.
Oh, hey, sorry. I'm Angela. I'm coming to you live from Greenwood, Indiana. I'm the CEO of Achieve Behavior Alliance Plus, ABA Plus for short, and we do ABA, B-Man, and PAC.
And so you have, I'm guessing throughout your agency, you have both contractors and employees?
Yes, we do. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's we have a few of both. Mostly W-2s, but a few contractors are grandfathered in.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm taking notes because then it'll help me as I ask questions and we figure stuff out. Jennifer, who are you again?
Yeah, I'm Jennifer Hersick. I'm a behavior consultant at SBS and also a regional director here at SBS.
Yeah, and my hostage co-host, who's tried to escape like 6 times and
I have
having it.
No.
Okay, so I'm just going to throw it out there because there's no right answer today, and I know I talk about these models a lot, but I don't also have a right answer. Do we have a favorite amongst the group?
I think it's easier to have contractors.
Easier
when it comes to like running payroll and tax time, but
okay, so
I don't know. If I'm an employer, I'd rather have contractors. As if I'm working, I can see the appeal to being a W-2 because you
got 2 lenses there. Okay, hold on.
You get less surprises at the end of the year, I suppose, when you do your taxes.
Yeah, where I run into, having contractors and being a company that primarily does W-2s is you run into issues with workman's comp and liability. If for some reason your contractors did not keep up their part, when we are assessed for our workman's comp and liability, we'll get a surprise when we get audited that where we have to pay for that W-2 employees liability insurance and workman's comp. Not W-2, I'm sorry, 1099 employee.
Where
if they don't keep up.
Because they'll like reclassify them?
Okay.
Yeah, basically they'll state that because they didn't carry their own liability and workman's comp insurance, then we have to do it even though they are a 1099 employee. And so we've been reassessed and had to pay for them to do that. And
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep.
Department of Labor.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we had that in March.
Yeah. And so we just got our assessment and we have a 1099 employee, like our one 1099 employee. They're able to go in, the insurance companies that assess us, they're able to go in and actually look through, I don't know if it's through the what government source, whatever, to see whether or not they actually carried insurance like they said, or like they provided, or what have you. And if they find that they did not carry insurance per their contract, then we have to pay for that. Now, granted, I could legally say you didn't hold up to your end of the contract, you are now responsible for this. But if they're not, getting the money from them is definitely not easy. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Okay. So You guys have both. We only have one.
Mhm.
I think in my experience as a clinician, as a practitioner, I was mostly contractor. And now I wasn't even thinking about it from two lenses. Angela, you already kind of got me there. There's yourself, like when we were all in the field, and then there's the agency side of it now, where like as a clinician, I definitely preferred contracting because of the better pay, the independence. And then when I first became a director, it was at an agency where I was employed director, and then I hired employees. And so I don't think I was an employed BC ever, if that kind of counts though as a director. But I was an agency director. I wasn't like, in charge. So like I didn't have too much of like the taxes or anything like that. I just more like these were my parameters for hiring and salaries and benefits and whatever. So there's a little bit of a two lens there. If you were Franny, if you were going to go back into the field tomorrow full time for whatever reason, would you prefer yourself to be a 1099 or a W-2?
Personally, I prefer to be a 1099 because I'm more familiar with the ins and outs of taxes and how to do all of that. When I was in my early 20s, I really had no clue. And sorry, I've got a dog on my desk that she wants in my lap.
Oh,
We
putting
love
her
dogs.
on the show. Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree. And I'm 48 now, so a lot of time has passed since then. But when I was in my early 20s, I had no clue, and I ended up owing tons of taxes because I didn't know what I was doing. So I think it just depends on how organized you are, how knowledgeable you are as far as taxes, or if you can't do it yourself, getting someone to do it. Yeah, I mean, there are definitely pluses and minuses. I try to make it beneficial for my employees to be employees. We provide their computers, we provide all of their software, we provide, we pay mileage,
Nice.
we provide medical, dental, visual, all the benefits that you would typically find in a larger company. So I try to make it beneficial for them. I don't know that they really understand necessarily the cost that goes into the employee model, because you and I recently had a discussion where, my behavior consultants are all employees, but they're talking to case managers and other behavior consultants that may not be employees about the raises that they're getting with this massive increase in behavior services.
Yeah. The $1.38. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're expecting like $1 raise, and really I feel like I pay them well as it is. And actually a recent analysis, we are actually not making any money in the behavior department. So yeah, we are not, just because I don't want to slight them in any way. I want to be able to offer them all of the same benefits that I do all of my other employees.
Right.
And the other thing that I never wanted to do is I never wanted to be that company that said that this client has this many units a year to use, you better use them, because
Quotas. Yeah.
yeah, I never wanted to, make them have quotas, a minimum amount of hours that they had to do. I wanted it to be purely client need, and it's actually biting me in the butt. So now I'm actually having to put quotas, like you have to work this many amount of hours a week in order to make. I mean, I don't want to be the company that I'm not about money, but I am a business, and I
Right.
have to continue to be able to provide for the employees that I have and the clients that we serve. And so I try to make it clear to them that this isn't about money in my pocket. This is money as a business. And if you don't work this many hours, then you're not going to be able to stay employed.
That's how they get paid. That's how their benefits get covered. Their PTO,
Mhm.
you know.
Right. So yeah, and that's it. I offer PTO, and their PTO is based on it's a percentage of how many hours they work. So it should be pretty comparable. They should be able to, like, if they work this many hours a week and they save it up, they can take that time off work. And we also offer things like we do an annual administrative trip, that,
That's right. The big one too.
yeah, we do. And we open that up to everybody. They do pay a portion of
I'll be
it.
there. I'm going.
Right. We do pay a portion of it, or they do pay a portion of it. We do payroll deductions if they want to choose that option. And
Oh.
then we ask them to pay up to $1,000 of their own trip, and then we pay all of the rest. And these are like, for instance, we just went to Maine. We just went to Bar Harbor. So we flew into Boston. We spent a day in Boston and did the Salem trip, and then we drove up to Bar
Nice.
Harbor, spent the majority of the week in Bar Harbor, went whale watching, came back, stopped in Bangor to see Stephen King's place, went back to Boston, spent another day in Salem.
That's
And
a
then
trip.
yeah,
That's
it
cool.
is. And then we flew back to Indiana, and it's a team building trip. We're all in different departments. It gives everybody an idea of kind of like what we all do. And then our next trip next year is going to be to Anna Maria Island. We rented this big 16-person house on Bean Point. And we pay for all the groceries. And we pay for two big excursions. We pay for, or no, one big excursion, two nights out for dinner. And
I'm definitely going.
I'm
whatever
gonna come
the,
work for your company. What am I doing there?
It's sounding pretty good.
and then we also we throw two big parties a year for all of our clients and staff and their families. They're not as big as they used to be with COVID. We used to throw a big Christmas party where we would have about 400 people attend. We had Santa and a DJ and gifts and raffles, and but once the introduction of COVID, having everybody in a building in the middle of December is not the smartest thing to do. So
Sure.
now we try
Became
to
less
do
appealing.
yeah. So, and we have people still ask about them and want to do them because they were a blast. But
That's a heck of a party. Yeah. DJ, 400
yeah.
people. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we just ended up having our fall party at Piney Acres, and we had about maybe 300 people show up. So not as many as we like.
Oh, so many people.
Pretty good.
It
300.
is. Yeah, it is. It is a lot of people, but when we have, I think we have around 400 employees and about 450 clients, and then we invite all of them throughout the state and their families. Now we do throw, I will say, we do the big party here in Indianapolis area, and then we have a large group of clients that we serve in Linton and another large group of clients that we serve in North Vernon. They throw their own independent parties so that they don't have to come up here. They're
That's
not near
nice.
as big, but we do provide for that. And then like our spring party was at the Children's Museum.
Wow.
So
these are some very like significant fringe benefits for the employees.
correct.
Like this is good. It's a lot. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and we try to do not just for the employees, but also for because we do our residential model is primarily preferred caregivers. So we tried to do at the very beginning of the inception of Life Choice to do just an employee only party, but to do that we would have had to have excluded their family members who are clients in a lot of cases. So when we ran the numbers and we really realized that the majority of our employees were family to the individuals we served, it just didn't make sense to do that. So that's when we started just opening it up to all employees, all clients, and their families.
Plus Joaquin. Yep, got it.
Well, and we used to invite case managers and behavior consultants, but they never showed up. So we stopped inviting them.
I could see that.
So
I could see that. Just because I know when I was in the field all the time,
Yeah,
I've been in the
yeah.
field all day. I wasn't going to go somewhere.
Right. We had one behavior consultant that showed up with her client every year, and she actually is now one of my behavior consultants. So
Perfect. Great networking right there.
Yeah. That wasn't the intention of inviting everybody. It just that
Oh, sure. But it happens.
But yeah, no, it happens. But
so from the employee model side, there's a lot of availability to come up and be creative in team building, incentivizing, rewards, you name it. Where on the contractor side, there's not. There is and there's not. Because technically speaking, from the contractor side, there's a lot of things we could probably do. Like fringe benefits aside, like we can't obviously do like health insurance, dental vision, but like, could we throw, I'm not going to, but could we throw a party and invite the contractors? And if they come, they come. It's just a company cookout or you name it, right? We could do stuff like that. Right? I'm not going to do it, but we could.
Right. Be really clear. We're not going to do that.
and for the subscribers at home, it's not about the cost or anything. I'm not coordinating over 100 people. And then is it just staff? Can they bring their families? And then we're statewide. I'm in Lafayette. I don't like going 2 miles out of Lafayette. So are we going to all come to Lafayette? Are we going to have, were you like you're saying, Franny, are we going to have one in the big teams, Indy, Lafayette, Valpo, you know what I mean? Then it gets wonky. That's why I stay away from
let's
that.
have multiple across the state.
Moving on from Jennifer. Angela, over on your side of the
Don't make me
metropolitan,
follow all those fringe benefits. I don't have any of that.
I won't, but you made the statement that you can see why the 1099 is appealing.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that? What to you feels appealing about a 1099?
If you're in a position where you don't need benefits, maybe you're under your spouse's plan or you're covered some other kind of way, it's not as enticing to be an employee, because you could keep more money by going hourly 1099 was what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the 1099 plan is appealing because I'm actually considering that. But the thing is that I wouldn't close them to the parties. Now, all the other benefits, obviously, they wouldn't be. Actually, I take that back. Our contractors, because we have a lot of families contractors, we do allow them to do the supplemental benefits and stuff, just not medical and not medical. They can do dental, visual, and all the supplemental insurances that we provide.
Nice.
But we wouldn't provide their computer. We wouldn't provide, but then I feel like I lose control over quality when that happens. If they have their own email address and then I have someone, my behavior consultant hasn't contacted me in this long, or my behavior consultant, is billing hours, but I haven't seen them in months, or I have no way of investigating, that I can go into their emails. I do not require them to have a phone number through us. They do all have their own phone numbers. I also don't require them to sign a non-compete because I feel like that infringes on client choice. If the behavior consultant were to leave us and go somewhere else, I want the client to be able to go with them if they chose.
Completely agreed.
But the control of the quality control is, I'm terrified. I've been in this field for 25 plus years, and I'm terrified of having behavior consultants that are like some of the ones that my clients have had in the past.
I know exactly what you're talking about. One thing that I will say from the contractor side, we do lose a lot of control. And there's some illustrations. There's one in specific I'll show here in a little bit and share my screen. There's illustrations that kind of break down, the contractor differences and some of the employee differences. And one of them is control, but that control is very relative. So I know I lose control as far as I can't tell my 1099 how many hours to bill. If they bill 2 hours for the month, we pay you for 2. If you bill 200, you get paid for 200, right? I always tell them that scale. We can't tell you. So there's no billing minimum. I can't tell you have to work 8 to 5. You can only work Monday through Friday. They can work 6 a.m. on Saturdays if they feel like it, right? They're contractors. They're in charge of that. But as far as the quality aspect, we're in control of quality because the quality is set by the guidelines, the federal guidelines, from HCBS, from the waiver, and you start going down the line. So you have like the federal guidelines, the state guidelines, you have SBS guidelines. I'm in control of that. And so being a 1099 vendor, you need to meet our quality guidelines to remain being a 1099 vendor for SBS. And so you yourself, if you were deciding to go contractor for anything, just say music, you're going to open up music if you don't have it, and all your music umbrella is going to be contractors. You can set these are my standards. You want to be a vendor for me, that's what you got to meet. And if you fail to meet those at enough times, we'll just cut you loose. So you can. I could absolutely help with kind of figuring out how to set that up, but you can absolutely set a high standard for your vendors. And if they don't meet it, or you find out, hey, I got complaints from my mom and the dad over here that so-and-so hasn't been showing up, and I go into billing and I look like you've been billing and they're saying you're not showing up, we can err on the side of caution and cut them loose.
Yeah.
Jennifer, how do you feel about that with quality? Because you spend a lot of time working on quality infrastructure here.
Yeah. We have a training team we've been working on through IBA. And so we're trying to increase quality by increasing education, right? So like making sure all our BCs understand everything about waiver that they need to, deadlines and paperwork and requirements and stuff like that. But on the quality side of things is we're really big on internal review. So where is that BSP? Has it been dated? Has it been signed? Is there a restriction? Is HRC seen it and signed it? Like, is, annual paperwork's being done?
No.
All that. Like, we can see that those things are being done. We review the billing. We see what kind of billing is happening. It tells a story, like either you haven't seen somebody all month long, we're kind of going, did something happen? Like, what's going on? And we can have a conversation, right? Like, is everything okay? So for sure they have a lot of freedom, and then, we're questioning when we need to.
Yeah, questioning, investigating, looking into. No, I can't jump into their emails and look through their email. But that's fine. I don't want to look through it anyways. There's probably smut in there anyways. Who knows what they're emailing. So no, I can't look in that. Obviously I can't access their phones either. Again, there's probably a lot of smut there and I don't want to look in there, but I mean, just through like
Who's working at SBS looking at all this?
I'm just saying, adults are adults. I don't like going through their devices. I don't like going through kids' devices either. But anywho, yeah, just like through like general investigation and conversations, like I'm of the mindset that like if parent A says BC John hasn't been here in a month, and then 2 months later, parent B, who isn't related to parent A, says I haven't seen John in a month, I'm going to err on the side of caution and say I've got 2 complaining sides. I'm just going to pull it. I'm going to cut you loose. Because, whether you're an employee or a contractor, it's an at-will state.
We do have the conversations too, like if you get a complaint,
there's a process. Yeah.
Sometimes there's misunderstandings, there's things that go wrong on the teams, and sometimes you investigate and find like, okay, your BC is actually doing it right. There was a problem somewhere else. I've seen that happen a couple times, but I think that
parent complained that we weren't doing ABA in the house, but like that's not what we do.
Yeah. Right. And so, I think that always like trying to keep those lines of communication open, and having those conversations and being available for questions, and just knowing that, they can come to you to discuss those things. I think that's, I don't know, it's a big thing that we try to do, because just like Joaquin said, like that, there's that control piece that you don't have. Like they're out there doing what they need to do, and you just kind of go, I'm hopeful everything's getting done, but then at the end of the month, we're able to go and, we review everything. We're able to look over, paperwork or billing or, all those things, and all of those things together will tell a story of what's happening out there.
Yeah. And we do a pretty decent job of like Jennifer's saying, tell a story. Like you can see, upward trends, downward trends, billing patterns shift. why were you billing at, 10 units a month for this individual? And now all of a sudden we've got a 3-month of 50 units. What behavioral significant changes happened for 10 extra hours a month, blah, blah. Like you can follow trends and patterns, and we start, looking into it. And yeah, she's right. I don't just get a complaint, wait 2 months, get a second, pull somebody. Like there's investigation, there's conversations, there's back and forth with the families, with the individual, with the BC. Yeah. Let me show you guys. I found this online. All right. So this is not like magic, or I don't even know if I'm confident it's accurate, but I still found it online.
Did you know that you're purple again?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Trust me.
Okay.
And
Just
the only way
There.
I've ever been able to fix it is if I like end the call and then go back in, it like resets. But I'm just gonna be purple today. I hate this. I hate Zoom. I don't actually hate it, but
While you're loading that, I was just gonna dovetail on the whole control and laptop issue is like phones, and I would love to maybe look into adding phones or covering that for employees because they don't respond sometimes. And I need like a quick response, like, can you do this? I mean, at least say no, and sometimes
Right.
it's dead, I think like providing some kind of cell phone incentive could
okay.
respond quicker.
What we do is we do Google Voice, or either if you do your services through Microsoft or Google, either one, they have it. But we use Google Voice, and so we pay for that. We give them a $50 stipend towards their phone bill, and then we pay for the use of Google Voice, so they can, no matter what phone they have, it rings in, it lets them know that it's a number, someone's calling that line, and they can
line.
text. Yep. So they can text, they can call, and then if they go on vacation, they're able to transfer those calls to a colleague for them to take those calls while they're off, so they can actually truly have a vacation. So
Okay, well, let me ask this real quick before I jump into this picture for the cell phone stuff. Whether we provided a cell phone or not, which here at SBS we obviously don't provide any. And I was just talking to it about Jennifer. One of the biggest things that like is my pet peeve is like response time on text, calls, emails. But when I was a director and I had employees, I can remember one in particular. Jennifer, you remember him. I won't name him, but like I could text that guy Monday at like 8:15 a.m. and it'd be like Wednesday or Thursday he's texting me back. And like we had, 2 phones and all the stuff, and it's like infuriating. So do you get that still though? You guys provide phones, right, Frank, or Google Voice or however?
Yeah, we do not have any issues. So one of the things that I preach from day one is communication, and so they have a time frame that they are required to respond to us, and then if they don't, then they well, for emails it's 24 hours. If they don't respond within 24 business hours, business days, so 24 hours. So like if we message someone on a Friday, we expect an answer by Monday. Or holiday, but yeah, so for emails it's that, and then if we've sent out a text message and by end of business day or something we haven't gotten a response, we try to call or what have you and still don't get a response, because I always try to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Google Voice is internet based instead of going through a cellular
cell
provider.
towers, yeah.
So I do try to give them that benefit of the doubt. So if we've tried to get a hold of them, then we contact them through, but honestly, as far as that's concerned, we don't have issues with responding to us. Now we have had complaints from family members about, our program coordinators or behavior consultants not responding. And that's when we're able to go into Google Voice and look at their call log, look at their text messages, that kind of thing, and see whether or not they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Now, since they're W-2s, do you have to give the Google Voice reimbursement in order to compel them to make that like response time rule?
No,
Set
that's
that
just
policy and enforce it.
Yeah. Yep. Policy and enforce it. That's the other thing is, I guess in your contract, it's the same thing. As far as if they don't follow the contract, you can terminate the contract at that point. So it's the same idea. I feel like maybe as a 1099 employee, it might be a little bit easier to terminate someone. but
because we don't have the same like unemployment risks. Like
mhm.
like employee model and contractor model, from my understanding, we can both terminate at will. But if the
Yes.
employee model doesn't have, satisfactory rationale, then there's the unemployment risk in the unemployment premium, where with the contractor model, we don't have that because you were never employed here.
Correct.
Yeah, I still can't terminate for the protected stuff. Like I can't terminate for sex, religion,
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. But like, if you just aren't doing great, like you haven't done anything major, like you're just not doing great and we're just not feeling it, like we can just be like, hey, thanks for your time here. Peace out.
Yeah.
And that would get somebody unemployment if they were an employee, because like, but we don't necessarily do that. We try to train them and coach them up and whatever. But
Well, when they're a 1099 employee, the other issue is I'm big on team building, making people feel like they're part of. I know that, like, I've talked to behavior consultants and other people in other companies, and they kind of just feel like they're out there on their own. And so we have, just for the behavior consultants, we have a monthly requirement that they attend a informational team building meeting. Now program coordinators have to come every other week. So but there's more
Brandy,
of them.
you would have fired me on week 2.
Right. And so
Joaquin, where were you at during team building? In bed.
Right.
Building my team of sleep.
And so then your contractors, they don't want to come. They're not going to get paid. They don't want to come. If you want them to do extra training, they're not going to do it if they don't get paid. That's also where I start seeing padding of billing. Because the only way I could get more money is to bill more. Well, this client doesn't want to see me, so what am I going to do to kind of get my billing up there so that I can make more money?
Okay, but I like countering that one. Because on the contractor side, yeah, we see it. I don't care anybody who watches this, any agency who watches this, you deal with it. Every agency deals with it. I don't care. Across the board, and it doesn't matter about waiver. If you are a provider of any state or federally funded services, you deal with it.
Yep.
You do. Dentist office, you deal with it. So anywho, that aside, from the contractor side, yes, you only get paid what you bill. Just like that's another reason why I like it, is because like the state only pays SBS what we bill, and then we pay the BC what they bill. It's just very linear for me, and so that worked. But on the employee side, like when I was a director and I had a small team, I would see billing padding when in the same regard, because we had quotas. You had to hit 120 billable hours a month, because that's what your requirement was for that salary tier or whatever. And I hated being the guy who had to like, hey, your billing's off pace, or it's a little light, or what's going on here, because CEO was telling me I got to go tell them, and then I could see some padded billing just to hit the quota. Like I feel like it's just that two sides to the coin kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me pull this back up and get your guys' opinion on it. I liked it when I found it. There's a little visual from online. All right. So one thing that I want the subscribers at home to kind of get a better gauge on is a little bit of the difference. If you are categorized as an employee or an independent contractor, now, Angela, Jennifer, Franny, tell me if these are looking right. With an employee, like at my autism center, we can't do contractors because we need the RBTs there for a fixed work schedule at a fixed location. They need to be at the center by 8 o'clock. Kids start arriving at 8:30. Blah blah blah. The independent contractor, they can work whenever, from home, from Starbucks, they can run an office, And then what? General responsibilities and duties, specific projects and tasks. So like if a BC has a cancellation, we don't have extra work to give them. Like, hey, just go mop the lobby, right? Or whatever, random stuff. Like, this is your job. Or here as an employee, like if you had a couple cancellations and you found busy work, I'm sure that's been a thing. I've been given plenty of busy work in my life. Under employer supervision, this part says enjoys full autonomy, sort of.
Yeah.
Full autonomy, in my opinion, is under, like we said earlier, under like the federal HCBS, under the Indiana, the Medicaid waiver, under our policies, you do enjoy full autonomy.
Right.
Like there's no such thing as full autonomy, because SBS doesn't operate with full autonomy. We have the waiver. The waiver has the feds,
Like you can't decide, I'm not going to write the BSP this year.
Right.
Man, I feel like it.
So it's like full autonomy to me is a little misleading in that regard.
Yeah.
Like in
Yeah.
our world, you have full autonomy within your umbrella. But like the regs are the regs. BSPs are due. You don't get to pick that or
Right.
whatever. Or if you have 8 hours a month with somebody, you don't get to decide, I'm just going to do 12 a month and get paid. Like that's, you don't pick that. You guys have talked about this. Company provides tools and equipment, your phones, computers, where we don't provide anything. It's all tax deductible for the contractors.
Right.
Huge benefits at Life Choice, folks. You guys get to go to Maine. I'm going to be on that trip. And then not eligible for mandatory benefits. I don't like this calling it mandatory just because, like, from my understanding, and tell me if I'm wrong, because like the first year of our autism center, we didn't offer Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield. We just couldn't afford it. Now we do, but there was no legal requirement that we did. You know, like we want it. We want to be able to provide it. But the law, like Indiana law, doesn't say you having employees have to provide them health insurance or cover X amount of premium or whatever. And so like, that's why I don't like calling them mandatory. Like there's nothing mandatory. Like we chose them, but as that employee company, we wanted to provide them. It just, we had to wait till we had enough money to be able to cover, you know, our monthly half or whatever the premiums are.
I think the threshold's 50 employees. I'm sorry.
Yeah, once you reach a certain threshold, they do become mandatory, and then if you don't provide them, you get sanctioned.
Really?
So
What's the threshold?
I do think it's 50. It is 50 full-time equivalent. So even if you have
30 full-time is 60 part-time.
Even if you have 100 part-time employees, that's 50 full-time equivalent.
Wow. Okay. So 50 is the marker.
And then, so then once you reach that threshold and then you do offer those benefits, you are required to pay 50% for the employee portion. So
good to know.
Yeah. So, and we are definitely over that threshold. And so they are mandatory for us to offer them.
I'm glad you guys are here because see, I didn't know that. At Full Spectrum, we maybe 20 employees, and we'll be there for a while. The only way we're going to get past 30 is if we get a second location, which is not on the market right now. So good to know. So 50-ish is the metric that if we were to exceed that. So let's just say that Autism Center got big enough, 3 centers, bunch of staff. We already provide a middle of the road Anthem plan, but like it would become mandated. Like we got to provide it. Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Did not know that. Okay. I'm gonna make a note of that. Good to know. I'm gonna call Lauren later.
Well, and I will say, fortunately, we have an amazing payroll company called AccuPay that's based out of Greenwood. And they're actually helped us with making sure that we, 1, knew about it, and 2, that we're compliant.
Good to know.
They went through and ran all the numbers for us. Like, you know, should we do this? Should we should we offer it, or should we take the penalty? And then when I thought about it, like if I'm going to pay the government money, I'd much rather pay like it towards an employee benefit than to pay it to the government.
Sure.
I did not want to give them those tax dollars. So
because even if the penalty is less than what it's going to cost for insurance, at least in you spending more, it's all towards a better cause than penalty to the government, which takes enough of our money anyways.
Correct.
Fair enough. This one's easy. Employer withholds taxes. You guys withhold taxes, responsible for own taxes. Now let me stop there, because that's something that terrifies people. I think Jennifer said that's probably one of her top fears that like candidates will report. But like one thing that like we have, and I say we like everybody can probably access these. Like online, you can get guides, PDF guides that are real easy, that walk you step by step how to pay your federal taxes. You guys will see this, right?
I can see.
And then how to pay your Indiana state taxes. Now these are from like 2021, but they're still accurate. I think in time's been updated a little bit since this was made, but like they're still accurate. So one of the things I try to deter people when it comes to the taxes part is like, yeah, you got to save money, but like it's super easy how to like pay your taxes, you know. I am being
as a large business, that's exactly the same way we still pay our taxes. So
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I have a little
Yeah.
Excel spreadsheet that I got from the accountant where I plug in our stuff from QuickBooks. It spits me a number. I shoot it to her. I'm like, hey, double check this. She kicks back. You should do 10% more. I say no. And then I pay the original number that wasn't 10% more. And we do that every quarter. And I go online, and just like on those guides, I now obviously have that memorized, and all my like logins are saved. So I just IRS, and I'm click, 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 click. Yes,
Mhm.
card this much. Like I pay the company taxes every quarter, like I did as a BC, just the whole company's worth. You know, I don't think it's hard.
Just from like your like everyday, behavior consultant, doing taxes as a contractor. I mean, I spent years and years, doing salary. And for the past, was it 3 years? Maybe I've been contractor. And I've done it a multitude of ways, and some ways don't work well. And so I have kind of found that for me, every month, skimming off what I need immediately, going into savings, right?
Hmm.
So every month you take that portion that you're going to owe taxes out. Just, it doesn't exist. You move it into your savings. And then when it comes time to pay your quarterly taxes, all of that just goes right away. And you don't really think about it. And that's been the way I've been able to just kind of go, oh, I'm paying all this money. I don't think about it now. Like it just is immediately taken off the top every single month until I reach that point that I need to at that quarterly time, and you pay it. And it's a lot easier than I ever thought it would be, because like going into it, I was like, I don't want to worry about having to pay my own taxes. That freaks me out. And I'm not the only one, because I do some of the hiring for us at SBS.
Nice.
And so for sure, those people that are coming over to it new are going, I don't understand this or that, and can you help me? And I'm nervous about it. And so we have a lot of those conversations about taxes. So
Yeah. And then also being aware of your own weaknesses. I will say, like, young Franny, I tried that, putting it in savings, but then I was married at the time to, it wasn't a good marriage. But I could keep that money in the savings and ignore it and move forward and do that. But like, he knew that money was in the savings. So then he would say, kind of bully me into
It's available.
taking, yeah. And so that's how I got myself in trouble the first couple of years of being a contractor, was one, not having sole control over my own money. And then also, some people may have the weakness, okay, they see that money over in savings, well, I'll just use it this time and then I'll put it back.
I'll pay more next quarter.
Right. So just being aware of your own weaknesses and kind of putting things in place to mitigate that. One way is that you can pay more often than quarterly. So
Right.
if you are someone that can't put that money in savings and leave it alone, you can actually, once you get paid, take that money out and actually pay early.
Monthly.
Yeah, pay monthly, pay
Pay
weekly,
monthly online
however often.
You're right.
Right.
That's
Right.
a good point. I don't think I've ever given people that advice. That's a great point.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
can
that's
go
really good.
online, pay monthly. There's no, if you pay like, I pay with the bank account. I know if you use like a credit card or something, there's like that processing fee, but outside of that,
Yeah.
like
Right.
there's no monthly fee if you want to pay every month. If you just like link your account or whatever,
Yep.
that's a good idea. That way nobody even has to save. You just go in and pay every month.
Just let it go. Just put it in there, and then you won't be so stressed at tax time.
We've been using a payroll app, Gusto, and they like automatically pull it from our account. Do you guys use any payroll apps for doing your payroll?
We use
Well-
we use that for the center, but we don't have contractors at the center.
Okay.
Yeah, for our non-contractors, I say we do all of our, actually even our contractors, we do all of our payroll through AccuPay. And we do pay a fee for that, but we do have over 400 employees, so it does make sense.
Worth it.
We also pay weekly. That's one of our additional benefits, is that we pay weekly. I try to do the bi-weekly model, but I had a lot of people. I have a lot of direct care staff and what have you, and Your typical people that are living months or from paycheck to paycheck don't budget out far enough to do every 2 weeks or monthly or what have you. So I try to keep that in mind, and it helps them budget better to have a weekly paycheck. So that is
Angela,
something
you're
we do
probably
as
every
well.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we're every month. For SBS, we don't have a software, but we use Candor Payroll out here in Lafayette. It's probably like your AccuPay or whatever.
Mhm.
It's probably similar. It's a payroll company here in Lafayette. I just send them the spreadsheet once a month. They process everybody's direct deposits, the total amounts, right? Not the taxes taken out or anything. And they just do that for us. But then, yeah, it is on the BC. But that might be something, Jennifer, that we need to hold on to. Maybe pitch. It's like, hey guys, if you want to pay your quarterly taxes, you can pay monthly. That way, you get paid. You make a payment on it, and then that way you don't even have to worry about it. Because that's what
Yeah.
people are used to. As a W-2, you would get your pay stub with your paycheck and not even really notice. You just knew your final number. But they were
Right.
taking a ton out of taxes. Now you get the total amount, and you think, oh, I'm paying this tons of money to taxes. You were paying more before. You just didn't see it. You didn't have it and then give it. You just got what was left. And so that's why it feels different.
Mm.
But like, even as a self-employed, there's like a what, 0.5%, 1% incentive in your gross tax liability. Tell me if I'm wrong here. Don't quote me, folks at home. Something about like, it's like 23% starting if you're self-employed, and where it's like 24% for like the standard employee. It's
Something like that. I know what you're
beginning
talking
bracket, and then it drops down
Yeah.
as you hit bracket. And I don't fully have my whole head wrapped around it, but I remember there being like a 0.5% or 1% incentive to being self-employed versus W-2 from the IRS, something like that. You pay just a shred less in taxes as well. Where is that at? We didn't get past this.
Well,
Okay.
and then also as a contracted employee, so as a W-2 employee, there is an employer portion of taxes that we pay. And as a 1099 employee, you have to pay that yourself as well. So that is sometimes people aren't as aware, because I try to explain to my W-2 BCs, like this, what you're seeing that's coming out for you for taxes, we actually put it on our pay stubs, and you can see what the employer portion is that we actually pay separate from what you pay on top of taxes. So it's not just purely, yeah, you're paying taxes, but so are we.
Correct. Yeah. I'm the only employee at SBS. And so like, to pay me my salary, like the payroll company also pays my employer taxes as part of paying me. But the contractors don't have that.
Right. So they have to pay their employer portion because they are self-employed. So that is another, I mean, there's benefits and risk to both sides. You're actually probably talking me into making all my BCs 1099s. I'll be honest. I might have a couple that would not be happy with that, and I think I might be able to get around that by maybe changing their job descriptions a little bit to keep them as a W-2 employee, and then making everyone else a 1099.
Hey, listen, I don't know nothing. I didn't see nothing. I wasn't even there. I'm not here right now. So whatever you want. Okay. So if I can dive in and jump into another one, there's a lot of providers out there, in my opinion, that use both employees and contractors at their agencies, which in many realms is fine, except for when they use employees and contractors to do the same job. That's been my experience.
Yes.
And like when the feds were here in March to do their audit, which, reminder, we passed with flying colors. One of the things was, distinguishing that, like, I cannot have 10 employed BCs, 10 contracted BCs, and they're all doing the same work, right? They're just being BCs. He said, if you had that, then you'd have 20 employees. And so the way he explained it to me, which we were already mostly under that understanding, but he did a better job of explaining it to me because it was in person. You can't do both. Is that what you guys understand?
Yes, you cannot do both. So their job description would have to be different enough to justify making them keeping them on as a W-2 and then making everyone else. So like we could, like if we made them supervisors of some sort, then that would allow them for us to keep them on as W-2 employees. Now, like you said, if we could not have BCs that could choose one or the other and have the same job description and responsibilities. We would get into big trouble for that. So yeah, you definitely cannot do that.
And there's so many agencies out there that are doing it still. And, you know, I stay out of, it's not my business to stay out of it, but like,
Yeah,
you
they're taking a
can't.
huge risk.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
when the federal government comes in, the federal government's going to look at those other ones and go, they're doing the same work as those. We're going to reclassify them. And like you were talking, Franny, about those employment taxes, they're going to go, well, you haven't paid employer taxes in the last year. Now you owe their year's worth of back employer taxes, which for those of you at home, all 17 of you, those are expensive.
Yes, they are.
You don't want to get into that, which is why I felt like I was very thorough in my vetting before I solidified I'm going with the contractor model. Before I opened, was like, I need to have it in a row because I don't want something to show up later and then, you know, bite me. And so thankfully I had it in a row. So when the feds showed up, thankfully we passed. And he loved my files, which is, I'm going to hold on to that for life. He said my files are fantastic. Angela, I mean, what's been your experience?
Well, actually, this is all news to me. I'm very surprised, but luckily, like the people we had hired on, we started out with contractors and they didn't like it at tax time and they all wanted to be W-2s. So we made them all W-2s. So, but one of them was a director and the other was, we like kind of gave them more things to do with the company. Anyway, so that, you know, they were, you know, not just owning their own work, which made them a contractor. We gave them some other things to do with the company so they could be W-2s as well. So, but yeah, I just learned that myself with this conversation. So glad I came.
Heck yeah. And it gets a little weird, right? Because now that you know, we're in this long enough, I start to see, especially with when you hire a BC or something from, you know, Fort Wayne or Evansville or something, areas that I'm not as used to, and we start to have new conversations. There's providers out there in these realms that like I don't really know. And we learn that like some of them have some of these covenants and some of these practices that it's like, you know, someday somebody might talk to you about that, but that's not my job. So I stay out of it. But like you can't do that. You can't have contractors who are like, you know, like that visual thing that picture says, you know, where you control their schedules. You can't tell contractors, hey, you're going to work 20 hours a week, bill 20 hours a week, and it's on Monday through Thursday. You know, like you can't execute those kinds of controls. And there's enough agencies out there that are even using the contractor model. I think are making that mistake, is because they'll even have it in their policies and procedures where it's like, as a contractor for us, you got to do A, B, and C. And it's like, Department of Labor doesn't like that. So if you could only pick one for your agency beginning tomorrow, you have no other options. You only one and done. Angela, what would you pick? W-2 for everybody. This is an imaginary world where my lunacy actually works. So you can only pick one going forward tomorrow. Everybody is a 1099 or W-2. What would you pick?
1099.
Jennifer.
1099.
Franny.
I mean, are you talking about like just my behavior department, or are you talking about my whole business?
Your agency. Your business.
Okay. W-2.
W-2. I love it. It's perfect. Yep. I feel like it's not, there's no perfect answer here. I don't feel like there's a perfect, like employee model's better, contractor model's better. Now, I personally do like, obviously, contractor model better. It worked for my personality better, and then it works for my managerial style, I think, you know, because like people will come and give me a lot of information and I'll be like, I didn't need to know any of it. You know, like I'm one of those, like, I don't need to know. The less I know, the better versus the more. So three say contractor, one says W-2.
Yeah, and mine is more just my knowledge of human nature. I want the best for my employees, and I would not want them to put themselves in a situation that they would regret later. And I think as a whole, most people are more comfortable with the W-2 model because they're afraid of having to owe taxes at the end of the year. So
And they're so used to it.
yes, yeah. So it's more about making sure that my employees are safe when it's all said and done and are comfortable and what have you. Now, for them, knowing what I know, I would recommend that they do the 1099. But again, my knowledge of human nature, I just see people getting themselves in trouble, and I don't ever want to see that happening
Sure.
to them. So,
A lot of possibility. When I was doing my my due diligence before opening, I laid out a bunch of tracks of like, okay, if I go employee, how does it look, and contractor, this, that. And my biggest hang up was we're a contractor for the state. If we go to the state and bill 2,000 hours, you get 2,000 hours. If I go to the state next month, say we had a shitty month, we only billed 1,000 hours, 1,000 hours. And so like my struggle was, okay, 2,000 hour month, all the employees, 1,000 hour month, same employees. Like those kinds of things I could not personally get my head over. Now I didn't do it into practice, right? I just I could not figure it out, could not problem solve it. And I had it all on paper. And I ended up going with the contractor route, because if we bill the state 2,000 hours, they pay us for 2,000, and then we pay the BCs for 2,000 hours. And it's just
So have you been through a Medicaid audit yet?
describe like what kind? Like the desk
Like
audits
where,
all week?
yeah. So
all
like where
year?
they come and they look at all of your documentation and like in-house, and they compare it to what's been billed. And then if they find more than a certain percent discrepancy, you have to pay that back, whatever discrepancy they find, to
Yes.
Medicaid. Okay. And so that's that's another fear of mine. I have been through those audits, and we've actually passed through flying colors, but my fear is that we are contracted to provide this service. We are the provider of record. And so if we were audited and my contracted employee didn't dot an I or cross a T, and now all the services that they provided, I have to reimburse all of that money to Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I guess it's going to happen no matter what, whether employees or W-2s, but then I guess it's more of a control thing. Again, I don't know then where are they held accountable at that point? Can I go back and sue them as my contracted employee for not doing their part and get all that? I don't know. There's just,
Well, we can walk through that real quick if you guys want, because honestly, yeah, when we've had that once, and I've had that at prior agencies where like I was a passing participant, like I got to help and kind of be there for like B-man, but not like today. And then we've had the Medicaid desk audit all year long. I've sent them so much stuff and everything's been fine. But yes, one day, and again, I will say this to every agency that provides a state or federal service, every agency deals with this. Nobody's special. If anybody markets that like that agency, got caught twice, it wasn't the agency. 2 people got caught, because 2 people over there will do it. So let's put that out there. Dentistry to physical therapy to you name it, it happens. So I'll be honest. If an employee BC or a contractor BC, both of them get, John and Jane get snagged, and we have to pay 10 grand back. You pick it. Any one of the agencies has to pay 10 grand back. What do we do differently, whether they were an employee or a contractor? If they're still with you, what do you do? If you're on the hook for 10K of their billing that you've been paying them?
So if they were an employee, I would do disciplinary action and then go forward until either they fix it or terminate them. I guess I would probably do this because I wouldn't think that they would do it on purpose, whatever the issue is.
We can go off of that presumption for sure.
Yeah.
It was accidental. Medicaid just was being difficult.
Yeah. So I would say I would do the same. I mean, obviously you can't discipline your 1099 employee, your contractor. So I guess and maybe it's my own knowledge of what we can and cannot do as far as, but yeah. And if they didn't fix it, let them go as a contractor. And
yeah, but how do they fix it? You've already had to pay the 10 grand back.
Hey,
Yeah,
does errors and emissions insurance like cover any of that?
Does what?
The errors and emissions that you have to carry for your like insurance, does that cover any of that?
I've never tried, so I'm not sure. I've always wondered if we were to get hit with a big enough number, would the company's professional liability insurance play in? Because I'll pay a deductible all day versus that. Does that play a factor? But I haven't had to pay back more than like a couple thousand in like situations that like we needed to pay back those couple thousand. So like I haven't pushed it to like filing a claim or getting that info.
Just curious.
Thankfully.
Sorry,
No, you're good. You're good. So,
hijacked it.
no, so like in my mind, because we haven't had that yet. But let's
Mm-hmm.
just say we had a BC with the best of intentions, and Medicaid was being difficult, and some reason we had to pay back 10 grand. Like that's where it gets complicated, because if they weren't doing anything negligent or difficult, what do I do? I haven't been there. Maybe I split it 50-50 with them. We take half the hit, and then we work out, hey, we're going to take out $500 a month for the next 10 months until we recoup the other 5. I don't know. If it's, out of like malice and like probably you were padding billing, whatever, then that's a different conversation. Because employee or contractor, I need you gotta recover that. So yeah, I mean, I've heard of BC's bad BCs being sued in the sense of small claims court for like a couple thousand from an agency because of like bad billing. But those are the BCs that like everybody knows about them, that like nobody's going to hire now. Everybody knows about them. But I don't know that we really have different pathways. Like I can't discipline my contractors like, hey, you're suspended for 3 days, but I don't want to either. I don't want to keep track of that. I don't want to fill out whatever. I just, if I get like enough viable, and we keep track, we have personnel files on everybody, regardless if you are an employee or a contractor. I still have a personnel file because you still have to have your paperwork in order. And so we keep track. And if we get enough complaints, like you're done. I don't care.
Well,
rather than
I
like
think it's
suspending.
Even with the 1099, you're reviewing everything. So like
Mhm.
if there's something not being done or you're getting the billing and you're like, oh, this doesn't look right, like this is a red flag, right? Like there's sometimes there's red flags, you address those so that they don't become accumulated red flags next time. So we take every opportunity to continue to go, okay, we can't bill this way. So here's your billing back, readdress this, do it differently, send it back to me. So you are trying to prevent, there's a lot of prevention going into ever getting to that point with your contractors. And I don't think that, at least on the teams that I work with, I don't think we've ever really run into anything where, the contractor didn't just redo something and send it back in.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
One thing I will say we do have the employee model in the sense of ABA, right? It's not the same. It's completely different. RBTs versus the BCs, building, blah, blah, blah. But with both agencies, there is a little bit of a rainy day reserve, which obviously took time and years to like build up. But that reserve, that savings is there for when like something happens and like I just have to be pissed off and pay for it, and just cost of doing business, I guess, breakage, 6 pallets fell off the truck. We got to eat that cost kind of deal. I don't know.
So what do you do as far as training so like for my W-2 employees, so we bring in a new BC, there's I think it's like 90 days that we have them on a salary at a certain amount while training and building their caseload. And then once they reach a full-time caseload, whether it's before the 90 days or by the 90 days, then we take them down to hourly. That way that they're being compensated for the training and ensuring that they're trained in the same way that all of our BCs are trained. But with a contracted person, they're not starting off with a caseload, but you still want them to be quality contractors, and say they're new from college and they don't really, know the ways of the world. How do you handle compensating them at being a contractor and not working billable hours?
That's a
in the
great
training?
question. I have a great answer for that. You're going to love it.
Okay.
The first answer is we don't pay them to learn the job. because, and I don't know if I'm completely right about this, but just because of my understanding of the contractor model, I went with that route. It's not about not wanting to pay them. It's about like, you got to sharpen your tools on your time and come be a BC. So to resolve that concern and lack of consistency, Jennifer Hersheg and Abby Strader of Abby Key Consulting have partnered up as and a few others, as a subcommittee for the Indiana Behavior Association. And they have created an entire training program that well, it's not fully done, but they're working on it.
It's just started, actually.
There's more than she lets on. But it's a training program and infrastructure to train members of IBA, BCs, whether they just, hey, you just graduated, or you're an agency member, or you've been at it for 2 years. Members of IBA have free access, learn, train, watch it, ask questions. There's an entire executive board. It's free. You know, like a BC who just graduates college, a 1-year membership for IBA is $75. For $75, they join, they have full access to the training, the entire executive board full of veterans, and they can work at whatever agency, you know, wants to hire them, contractor or employee, but they have access to free, peer-reviewed, you know, worked on training materials for B-Man. And then SBS has some B-Man specific stuff for like how you do things here. Sure, we have some of that training, but we do it in that realm versus like the traditional, like you're going to come to orientation for a week and like hate your life staring at, you know, computer modules.
Okay, so Life Choice.
When you join IBA, yes. When Life Choice,
we are joined. We are joined.
Perfect.
Yep. So we are. In fact, some of my people went to the conference that you just had, and they were pretty blown away by it. So thank you.
What conference? Different association.
What is it? Am I in the wrong one?
Yep.
Please tell me I'm not.
You are.
So which one is the one I did it based on your recommendation.
There's a blue one and there's a red one. I like blue. Today apparently purple, but the Indiana Behavior Association is this podcast. It's what Jennifer and I are members of. And then the Indiana Behavior Association, or the Indiana Association of Behavioral Consultants, is the old
Indiana ABC.
INABC.
Yes, that is the old association, and they hold that November conference in Muncie. There are a lot of the people that we've actually, you know, like Gina Schenk was there handing out awards, and she's the one that is on trial right now for attacking us. So like we don't participate there. Yeah.
Okay, can you send me a link to the right place, please?
Yes. So as part of agency membership, which is based off of BC size, your BC team, not your company, just your BC size, is significantly cheaper than elsewhere, and comes with free CEUs, the training materials for BCs, and beginning next year, an HRC committee that IBA members can utilize for their agency for B-Man.
Okay.
So like if you joined IBA, your agency could use IBA's HRC for B-Man, but not for like residential or music or something, you know.
Yeah. And we have our own HRC, but it would be kind of nice to have that additional resource.
It'll be there. Or you could always look at maybe fusing some of your HRC members into the IBA HRC and then maybe reducing that off your plate.
Could be, yeah.
There's a committee chair that an independent committee chair at IBA that doesn't work for any of us. That is the chair and runs it. So like,
okay, that would be nice.
She'll tell any of us no, you know, like I'm not pushing that through because you want it. Like it's not right, and so like it's great.
Yeah, and I would love to do that. That actually might be the way to go. But that's one of the things that I work hard on, is making sure that our members are not part of Life Choice. So because we can't be unbiased, you know, if
it's harder.
So we have members from other provider companies.
The big thing that we are trying to gain in the industry and are tangibly working on it is consistency. So that's why we're like working on those group training protocols through IBA that will be opened out to everybody of IBA, HRC that will be consistent for all that participate in IBA. So that way we're starting to see consistent patterns across the board. And we're putting that into place. So yeah, HRC starts January though. So yeah.
This is exciting. I can't wait to see all the training materials.
Yeah. So
Angela, you're going to join the HRC at IBA for next year, right?
Of course.
Heck yeah. Like, I just bully people into signing up for stuff.
Will
So
I be a contractor of SBS at that point and get paid to go to HRC? I'm just kidding.
nobody gets paid to go to HRC, so you do
I
get
can't listen to them.
Amazon gift card though, sometimes
Oh,
randomly.
worth
Yeah.
it.
In the mail.
So it is indianabehaviorassociation.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it blue?
Yes, it is blue.
Yep. That's us.
And there's people with their hands up.
I
on
didn't
the-
make the website.
Really
picture.
happy people with their arms in the air.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, yeah. Rosalind is the editor and makes the website.
awesome.
Yeah. Monthly CEUs. Because IBA is an approved provider of CEUs, so like we can provide our own CEUs in-house.
Okay.
And so every month we put on a CEU. You guys can come if you want. Your BCs can come if they want. That's how they can get their CEUs.
I was really impressed by them as well. The whole neurodiversity that Dr. Kanai put on, like
Oh yeah, Dr.
quality
Kanai's great.
CEUs.
Dr. Kanai is great. Heck yeah. Join IBA. Come be a part of the fun. So we're putting all this on. So yes, big thing with IBA is because it's going to be it's own body. It's run by an executive board that I don't have control of. It's got its own voted in presidency and members. And so those members decide stuff, even if I don't like it. And then those subcommittee chairs run their own subcommittees. And so that HRC is independent of the waiver. And so they know the waiver, they know the HCBS guidelines, they know the DDARS policy, they review it annually, but they are so good about being like, hey, I understand you're in a rush or you're behind and you need this, but this isn't going to fly. We're not going to do it. And that I love. I don't need a rubber stamped HRC. I need safe people. So
They're good with the new settings rule. Like they know.
yeah, they love it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I do too. As I get close to, thanking everybody for coming and rounding us out. Final thoughts on the contractor and the employee, where did we leave at with that? I'll start with you, Franny.
If I could get all of my BCs on board, I'd definitely like to go towards the contractor model, especially with the IBA membership, if it does involve access to the training for
it does involve access. I will say, because of the way it's set up, they have to be willing to do it. Like there's no like, come here, sit down for a week. Like here's materials that are being produced and provided. Go look at them, go read them, go figure, ask questions kind of deal,
Yeah. And I'm also a creature of habit, and I don't like change. So I may actually just stick with the the W-2 model and just require them to do that training and pay them for it to kind of to ensure quality. And I don't know. I have a lot of thinking. I just want to make the behavior consulting department not necessarily 100% profitable, but some, I want some money to be able to provide supports for other things. But
makes sense. I mean, don't feel bad for thinking that. We only have one department, but if I had 7, I would want all 7 to be at least, reasonably marginally profitable. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Well, and then as you know, I have my Louis Farms, which is I'm working on the nonprofit I've already got it all turned in. I'm just waiting on the approval. But
nice.
So right now, Life Choice is funding the majority, well, all of Louis Farms. So I would
love to not subsidize so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I get that.
Anyway, I'll probably stick with the employer model for now, give them 2024 to become profitable, and then if not, go with the contract model.
And check out, like I said, check out IBA, have them look out for like the quarterly meetings. They can come be a part of that and learn more, and they can join subcommittees there too if they want to be more involved as BCs. I mean, there's a lot out there. That's cool. Angela.
Yes.
What about you as we're headed out? What were your closing thoughts on this?
I would have liked to keep them all contractors. I think it was much more simpler running payroll and staying on top of everything when I was doing it that way. Just the top of my head answer without like really putting a lot of analysis into it. That's
I'll
what I was
take your
doing.
answer. Your answer is your answer. I like it. Jennifer, what about you?
Well, I mean, obviously I'm of the contractor model now that I've been doing it for several years, and I love it. It's worked best for me as a BC, still in the field. I'm not running a company, so I don't have, any of those other things to think about, but just as a straight BC in the field, I love this, having the freedom. Some of that freedom also I feel, and this can vary by company, but I've been in that position where it's like, well, here's a referral for you. And you're like, well, that's like an hour away. And they're like, oh, go ahead, it's yours. And you're
Yeah,
just like,
here's your
oh, I
referral.
guess I'm taking it, right? I'm taking the referral. And so I think it's just better to have some of that control where I can go, you know what, this person is a good fit. They like me, I like them. I'll be a good BC for them. And then, that's a mutual decision.
Mhm.
And I think, once you can kind of get over that initial, okay, I've got some new things to deal with. I've got to figure out how I'm going to do these taxes. And there's a lot of tools out there to help you, like QuickBooks, and there's apps and there's things that can kind of guide you in that. And then, of course, like we at IBA have materials to help you make those decisions as well. But, this whole panel, this was all brought together to kind of toss these ideas out of, being a W-2 employee, being a contractor, especially for BCs that might be just coming out of college and going, what do I do? What's even out there? Most of the people that kind of actually stumble into behavior consulting, they didn't go to college thinking, gosh, I really want to be a behavior consultant. No one really knows about it. They kind of fall into it.
Sure.
And so when they do fall into it, they're, usually ending up in a situation where they might go somewhere, sign a non-compete, and have a real bad experience.
Sure.
Maybe they won't, but yeah, I guess if the question was, am I contractor or W-2, like a contractor, obviously. But
As a BC, as a director, would you still
Mhm.
pick contracting or would you go W-2?
I think I would still go contractor. I think with all the people that I've been able to hire, right? So interview, answer their questions, bring them on board, and help train them. I've had a really good experience across the board. You have, some occasional situations where things might not work out, right?
Sure.
But I feel like the majority of the people that have come on board here, as long as we are always open to, okay, we've got to train in this area, figure out where strengths and weaknesses are, help people achieve being a little stronger in weaker areas, right? So I feel like that's always an ongoing process of training and working with people, especially if they're brand new to the field. They need a lot of help to kind of figure it out. Or you haven't worked from home ever before.
Sure.
There is
Which is
like
my
that.
favorite, Franny and Angela, which is why you'd fire me in 2 weeks, because you'd be like, Joaquin, you haven't been here in the first 2 weeks. I was like, I'm at home. I'm
He's
working.
walking away.
Yeah. I'm just I'm here working in my pajamas. Fair enough. Well, Jennifer, I appreciate that. One thing I'm going to show my screen real quick, because my ending thought is I want folks, BCs, whomever, do your homework, do your due diligence, go down those Reddit rabbit holes and the Google rabbit holes and just look into it, ask questions. This was from a simple Google search, the IRS website, right? So like I'll put the link in the bio of the episode for folks, but like, you can just go to the IRS's, federal government's website, and it gives you a breakdown on like, if it applies to you, if it doesn't, some of the differences, rules with law, forms that I don't know anything about, misclassification of employees. Like it provides, this is in a lot of ways, I feel like worded towards an employer, but nonetheless, if you, are exploring as a BC, as a music therapist, as a rec therapist, whatever, you're exploring the employee side, the contract side, do some homework. Look at QuickBooks, self-employed, look at the IRS website, look at the Indiana Department of Revenue website, look at InTime, time. Do some homework, talk to maybe an accountant. Paying taxes, doing all that kind of stuff is a lot easier than it sounds. So just look into it. That's what I got. 17 subscribers at home. Hope you had fun with us. Franny, Angela, thank you for coming back for another time to let me bug you and putting up with my annoying emails. I appreciate it.
All
Thank you
right.
very much.
Thank
Take
you
it
guys, and
easy.
I will close us.